Welcome back to Take Two, presented by LeftRightPolitics.com, a discussion of the times, current events, and politics. I'm joined as always by Adam Matlack and Mike Pomerantz. Today, I'd like your take on the weaponization of the Justice Department.
Man, we've got a hot topic here for sure. When the country was founded, I think they all thought that this perfect idea that the federal government and the government in general would have checks and balances. It would have this system that's perfectly kind of divided, and it would all check each other. The question of today is that the case? Or is it, really just when the presidency is one, the executive branch overexerts itself and, leverages the Justice Department for its political gain, financial gain, all these things. As laws continue to grow and more things become illegal and are regulated, I think we're going to see the continuation of the questioning of previous administrations as what we're seeing now. It's interesting. We don't see talk about Eric Holder much anymore, even though there was massive amounts of scandal when he was in the position. There's something that's clear. For a long time for me, legislating from the bench was absolutely a known quantity. It happened. It was a plan. I think arguably it was, in my opinion, it's been a lot of the hardliner left's plans, the progressives who sit there and say, oh, we can't change the amendments, but we can change what they mean by getting, Supreme Court justices in and getting them to shift their what the laws mean. I think that's been a plan by some, not all. The general weaponization of the DOJ is at a kind of pinnacle, it almost seems, or a point where it's going to break one way or the other, where is Barr being used by Trump to attack his enemies. And what's interesting about this situation is almost normally everything is kind of behind closed doors. You got that Hamilton song, "Be in the Room Where It Happens." With Trump, he doesn't like anything that happens behind closed doors. He just says it out loud. He's like, oh yeah, I told Barr to fire him. I told Barr to do this. I told Barr to do this. It's like everybody's sitting there looking at each other. I mean, one of the first times that happened, which was years ago, everybody's like, you're not supposed to do that. He's not supposed to be a political weapon. And Trump's normalized it almost to this point where it's just like, oh, he works at the, my behalf. No, that's not how it works. Actually, you appoint them, but they don't work at the pleasure of the president. He's like, well, in his mind, because I appoint you, he does. And so Trump is a big part of this conversation. It needs to be, even though he's not in the Justice Department, but he's the guy who's supposedly the puppet master here. Not that I can ever imagine Trump being a puppet master of anything, even because he can't even control himself. So controlling someone else would be a pretty tough thing to do if you can't control yourself. I think there's no doubt, based off of just rhetoric alone, that it's happening. That it happened under Obama, and it's happening now, and it probably likely happened under Bush and previously. I think now with the hyper media or reality of the fact that it's 24-hour news cycle, there's more coverage, there's more checks, and there's more people just saying stuff. That it's kind of more obvious now, and the fact that Trump's just, he just wears it on his sleeve kind of thing, like, I don't care about separation of power. I think it's absolutely being weaponized. I think it has been in the past. I think we're coming to an apex, though, where it's going to go probably way too far and come onto the radar.
Yeah, I agree that things are changing rapidly. The separation of power is, I agree, it's something that Trump misunderstands. I think he sees the divisions, but it's again, like everything else in his world, there has to be a winner. So he sees the separation of power between Congress and the executive branch as a fight. And he is allowed to do anything he can to win that fight. He must win that fight. It doesn't matter what the fight's about. He just must win. And the DOJ is a weird department. Okay, let's say I've been elected president and I'm coming in, I'm an ex-attorney. I may have some policy issues, maybe some criminal law reform or bail reform that I want to get through. That may be something that I get help from the DOJ on how I formulate that kind of policy. But the DOJ has another purpose, law enforcement. And if I'm the guy breaking the law, then they need to be independent. You're right to point out that there has been a lack of dependence in the past. We can talk about Holder, and there may have been decisions that came from him which were politically motivated. We didn't know about them. Are we better off not knowing? No. It's better that we know what's happening. Does the fact that it was tolerated before we really knew about it or had these graphic examples, does that make it okay to do it now? It does not. Should Barr, as the head of the DOJ, find some way to assist in policy and also maintain independence from the president, even though they're all together in the executive branch? Yes, he should help with policy where it's implicated, and he should stay independent when it comes to law enforcement. What's happened with Barr is that he has given up any effort to look independent. And you talk about things that are getting normalized. If we move into a period of our history where the chief executive can say, ring his little bell and be like, Attorney General, come in here, please. I need you to prosecute so-and-so, which is undoubtedly what's happening now. And if that becomes the norm, then we're in a lot of trouble, because it's not just a question of sophistication and being cosmopolitan and looking like we're smarter than we actually are. You can't have political blood sport where the people don't get to choose because the person they want to vote for is in jail. And that's where this is going. That's the end point. At some point, a political adversary will have enough of a weakness so that a corrupt attorney general can put that adversary in jail. And then we don't have a free system anymore. Now we have a system that's just run by the winners. And he's supposed to be the president of everybody, not just the winners, but the losers like me who voted for Hillary. So the weaponization is crazy. And when the Flynn indictment got pulled after 2 guilty pleas, after the president fired him, when the thing gets pulled and it's obviously at the direction of the attorney general acting under specific instructions from the president, then we got a major problem on our hands. And I don't know where it stops, because what we knew was true is that after impeachment, the infractions would get bigger, they would get uglier, and they have. And the crazy thing is, we're all distracted by coronavirus, so we don't see that the rule of law, at least on the federal level, is getting flushed down the toilet. Scary.
Well, I'll take issue with that. Look, Hillary proved for me unequivocally that the rule of law does not exist. We don't live in a country like that. She was treated completely differently. Comey even stated it in his thing. Well, we took this as account and we isolated her case and treated it differently than what we had treated every other one prior to that. I mean, he's on record that was the case. Why? Because she was running for president of the United States and she was a powerful person. The rule of law is simple. No one's above the law. Everyone needs to face the penalties. That's not where we live. We do not live in a society that's governed by the rule of law completely. It's a mask that's designed to pretend like that's the case, that the rich and the powerful don't have complete control because, you go and vote and you just elected the wrong guy. You should wait a couple of years and elect the right person. When no, I'm trying to explain it over and over again. Power is the problem. We're giving these people too much power. They'll take it they'll take it until it's. And it's interesting. You're the one who sounded like you got the tinfoil hat there on for a second, talking about all this problems of moving forward from what's going to happen with the weaponization in the future, how we're going to put these guys in jail. I mean, right now, if Trump truly weaponized the DOJ and Barr arrested Biden, we would have, I want to say, I'll preface this. I want to say that we would have an uprising of epic proportion by many people on all accounts. They'd be like, this is not okay. Now, I'm fearful that that might not be the case, but I have faith that there's a lot more people who would recognize that's not okay now than would be like, he belongs there. Now, maybe he does. I don't know. All of these, maybe all of it, maybe they all do. I mean, you tell me, sit there and say that you think Trump belongs in jail. A lot of people say this. I'm like, well, I'm pretty sure all the people you voted for or have voted for belong in jail too. And so we go down the line and we move the goalposts over and over again, depending on who it is and what they've done and who they are. That's not a justice system or a country I want to live in, but it sure is where we live now. And as we move into the next phase of ultra politicalization, where everything's political, and it continues to get this way, it doesn't matter what happens. It's almost like, oh, well, if you're not on my side, you're the enemy, and it's this giant war. And it used to be that we acknowledged we had a whole lot more in common than we have differences. But now the only thing we ever talk about is the political differences, and even if they're small, it's the whole conversation. And so it makes sense to me that one day we probably will deal with a little dictator, because there's been 45 presidencies. Every single one has entered the presidency and expanded the power of the presidency. None have given any back, and they've made the chair more powerful. And it will continue until something drastically changes. And the weaponization of the Justice Department could be one of those tipping points.
It could be. It's funny to think of what the American people could stomach and what would cause them to take to the streets.
Yeah.
And would the arrest of Biden, who is not, he's sympathetic, but he's people don't really care about him. I mean, he's just the guy. He's the container.
You do it to Obama.
Oh yeah. Well,
even now.
That's another dude who they might think about trying to arrest. I mean, talk about don't poke the bear. You're going to get a lot of people upset the more you go down that Obamagate trail. But I will say this, and I'm trying to be thoughtful, but for both Hillary, who didn't ever get elected to be president, whether or not I think she should have, and Trump, maybe they're caught in this weird transitional time where it's like we're finally getting out all the gunk that's been in the engine for so long. And we finally live in a world now, thanks in part to incredible information resources like the internet, but also thanks in part to Trump just being like, blah, 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 I'm going to say whatever's on my mind.
Yeah.
Maybe we're in that moment now where everything's changing and it's going to look completely different once we get through this transitional period. So maybe 4 or 5 years down the line, we'll be in a completely different situation. All I can say is watch out for the kid who, when he's putting ketchup on his fries, has to squeeze out the whole friggin' ketchup container. Or when he puts toothpaste on the toothbrush, has to empty out because when it comes to capitalism, there's no restraint. You're that same little kid who's just eating out the whole thing. And, look, you elected Trump, the most self-interested person. I don't mean you, but he's the president, the most self-interested person to ever hold the office. And this is what you get. You're going to find by any means necessary. Look, I agree with the Powell doctrine. The Powell doctrine is don't go to war. And this is something we followed strictly when we were trying cases back in my law career. You don't go into a trial just trying to win, just trying to eke out a little win. You go into a trial, especially one where there's millions of dollars on the line, you want to take off the head of your adversary and show it to the jury. Okay, you don't want to win by a little bit. You want to win so that the people who came after you will never, ever even consider doing that again. The Powell doctrine is very much the same. Don't fight a war unless you can bring to bear so much overwhelming force that you're guaranteed to win and to win quickly. That's what Trump is doing. I have a better chance to win if I can get my adversaries thrown in jail, or at least make them worried about that. And in Barr, he has the perfect soldier to help make that nightmare scenario at least seem a little bit more real. I don't know how far down the road we'll go. I don't know if I'm going to have to get out that tinfoil hat, but we're closer now than we've ever been. Scared.
All right, that's all the time we have today. Thank you both for your thoughts. If you enjoyed our discussion, be sure to like and subscribe below. We'd love to hear from you in the comment section. Thanks again, and we hope you can join us for the next edition of Take Two, presented by leftrightpolitics.com.